Hello everybody, my name is Roxtus.
And I'm Soulgale.
And welcome back to Warframe. What, you ready?
Yes.
Alrighty, Chroma, how to.
How to.
So how you get Chroma?
You get him from the new strange
New
quest.
Strange. Where is that? There's that New Strange.
The new strange.
So you get him through New Strange, you have to go through the quest line, you'll be able to get each of his parts. Don't sell his parts. If you do sell his parts, they will be a pain to get back. Cephalon Samaris charges quite a bit, and it takes quite a bit of time to be able to go and get his parts back. So definitely do not sell your parts when you're trying to go through New Strange. I don't think I ever sold my parts, but just a heads up, you don't want to.
Nope.
You definitely don't want to. For Chroma, though, he is a buffer. He is a very good one for just helping out your team and making sure that no one dies and that they do a ton of damage altogether. Well, should we go ahead and take a look at the abilities?
Yes.
Let's see what he can do.
All right.
Alrighty, I am in the wrong. I'm in the wrong one again. This keeps happening. I don't know why. Alrighty, we got a passive. Wings sprout for an additional jump and additional bullet jump. So this is interesting. It basically, I believe, gives you a third jump. Just gives you an additional third jump. This is pretty cool because instead of just jumping, doing a double jump, now you're doing a triple jump. So that's pretty cool. One thing I did forget to mention too, and that's something that's also throughout each of his abilities, is he has 4 different elements that he likes to use. He likes to use fire, ice, toxin, and electricity. And to start off with your base element, you can pick and choose at the start of your mission what element he uses by changing his appearance and changing what emissive color he has on. So if you go green, you'll get some toxin. If you go yellow, you'll get some fire. If you go white or a gray or a black, you'll get ice and get icy cold. Brr.
Brr.
And then if you go a blue, you'll get electric for the electric. Now this is something I also didn't mention in Equinox as well. Equinox, I forgot this in Equinox's video, but the appearance tab. If you change Equinox's emissive color to something bright and light, you'll get the day form. And if you go super dark, you'll get something in the night form. So it'll change which one you'll start the mission in, whether it be day form or night form. So that's something I completely forgot about Equinox, but it's pretty much the same thing with Chroma. If you change around his colors, it will change around what statuses you deal or what status you start off with at the very beginning of the mission. So instead of, hey, you know what, I want to be fire every single mission, you can change this emissive to fire or whatever you want it to be. I kind of wish that there was just kind of an option here, just because, hey, you know what, I want to be green just like a dragon or something like that. And I also do want fire though instead of toxin because I like the fire. Customization wise, I kind of want that because I want my dragon to look a certain way, and having to change my emissive colors changes my customization altogether. And then if I want to swap over to fire, that doesn't really help, especially with customization. So you can see there where that's just kind of a nuisance a little bit, but we can live with it. I do wish for like a little changer right here. Hey, I want fire, and you can just kind of like cycle through which one you would start with. That would be pretty interesting. Same thing for Equinox. That would be pretty good. Alrighty. Oh no, it switched back. All right. So that's the passive, triple jump. We got spectral screen. Chroma turns into a little flamethrower. Exhale a deep breath of elemental destruction. Tap to cycle through the elements. So you basically tap this ability and you'll cycle through cold, toxin, fire, and electricity. And hold to cast. You'll get a little flamethrower. The chosen elements applies to all of Chroma's abilities. So this changes up all of your elements, whether you want one of the 4, toxic, electricity, cold, and fire, and it changes it up for elemental ward, and it also changes it up for your effigy. Vex Armor has no elemental configuration here. So Spectral Scream, you'll be able to cycle through which element you want throughout all the elements. So this is pretty useful. And then, of course, hold and you'll breathe fire. Drain is 10 upon holding the ability, and the drain per second after the ability is held down and you're starting to do your flamethrower is 3 per second. Damage per second is 400 of your selected element. Range is 10 meters for your little flamethrower range. You have a status chance of 100% for each of those elements, doing what each element does at its best. Your spread range is 10 meters. And this is interesting because if you're pointing toward one unit and you hit that one unit with Spectral Scream, regardless if you're looking at another unit within 10 meters, it'll latch on to that second unit and deal the same statuses. And I don't know if it applies damage as well, but it applies the same statuses onto that second unit. So that's really, really interesting to take note of there.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a pretty good, useful little ability. Yes, and then Elemental Ward. This one is a very tall order. As you can see with Spectral Scream, we can actually read the name of the ability at the very top of the window. And as soon as we pop open Elemental Ward, we can't see anything.
No.
Elemental Ward. Depending on Chroma's elemental alignment, as an offensive area of effect is created, or Chroma is and its nearby allies are imbued with defensive energy. So the drain is 50, radius is 12 meters, and duration is 25 seconds. Now this ability is split into 4 different parts depending on what element you have chosen via Spectral Scream. You will be able to notice on the bottom right hand corner in game which element you have selected for the ability. For heat, electricity, and toxin and cold, there are all 4 different auras that get projected. Now, I want to make this clear. When you're doing drain, the drain is 50 and the radius is 12 meters. The radius for this ability, I'm going to use 2 different verbiages for this. I'm going to use contribution and I'm going to use aura. The radius for the contribution range is 12 meters. Every other ability underneath this has a different range depending on each of the elements. Okay, so contribution range, this ability from Chroma gets contributed to anyone that's in his aura, any teammate that is in his aura. So he gifts everyone a aura, which helps them out. It buffs them out. So he's Mr. Buffer here. So we have heat. Heat adds 55% added health to a unit if you have heat on. The damage per second is 100 if enemies are within that aura, whether it be your aura or an ally's aura. The status chance for that heat damage to proc heat is 10%. And then the range, which is not listed here, you got to list your range for the heat, is a 5 meter radius around your ally or yourself. So you cast the ability, the radius to cast onto other people that are near you, to gift it to other people, is 12 meters. And then based upon the element, it'll give them a gift. It'll give them that aura. So for heat, it's a radius of 5 meters. Electricity. Shield capacity is increased by 30%. Status chance is 25% for electrical damage. Damage multiplier is 10 times. So what happens with electricity is as units are firing on you, that damage gets knocked right back in their faces with a 10 times damage multiplier. And this 10 times damage multiplied back to the unit has a 25% status chance to status electricity. So as soon as they get hit with that electricity damage, they'll get shocked and you'll see them visibly shake from getting shocked. It's shocking. That is a pretty high damage multiplier as well. It's a 10 times damage multiplier for electricity. Radius for this, I like that they put the radius down underneath this one. It's a 10 meter radius. So that good old check mark that you're actually including things in the ability that need to be there. So 10 meters is how far away the distance is a target, and it'll just zap any random target with that damage. When you get hit with damage, it'll just zap it right back at the nearest target, I believe. Toxin. Toxin increases holster damage. Holster damage duration is 3 seconds, and your reload speed. So holster damage, what's this? How does this work? Well, it increases your reload speed. As soon as you reload, you'll get holster damage bonus. So as soon as you reload, you'll get, from holstering and putting the weapon away and pulling it back out again as fully reloaded, brand new, fully reloaded, you'll get 35% bonus damage. That damage duration that damage is available is only 3 seconds. As soon as those 3 seconds elapse, it's gone. So it's nice that you have reload speed in there, so you can just keep on reloading and reprocking that holster damage, which is 35%. Status chance is 50% chance, and this also does a base damage around you. This is also not listed, and also the range is not listed on this as well. So the damage is toxin damage. It does 5% of a target's maximum health per tick of toxin. And what this means is that 5% damage, health damage, is dealt over a period of 6 ticks of toxin. Toxin always does 6 ticks. So to begin with, we're going to start at how this happens. Status chance is 50%. It has a 50% chance, if the enemy is in the aura, that the enemy will be hit with toxin damage. When that proc happens, toxin will be applied to the unit. Toxin lasts for 6 seconds, and during those 6 seconds, every 1 second of those 6 seconds, it will be dealt 5% of the target's maximum health. That 5% adds up to 30% of the target's maximum health. That is a lot. That, especially against Corpus, that will do significantly well, especially earlier in the game or even later in the game. It'll just start ticking. You'll see their health just completely go down. That's pretty useful there. All right. Yeah, again, I wish they put more into this ability. I wish they actually showed a little bit more of some of this stuff. Like, they need to obviously put in some more details on where the damage, how far away the unit can be. Obviously, that's just not something that they took the time to put into this ability, but it is what it is. So, cold armor is added 145%, so it buffs your armor. The damage multiplier is 3, and the status chance is 25. And again, you're left guessing what those things actually do. So, status chance is well, let's back up here. Enemies that fire upon Chroma, when they fire upon Chroma, there's a status chance that gets procced where every hit that they do onto Chroma, they have a 25% chance that they'll proc a cold proc onto themselves. So that's pretty cool. And any damage that they deal to you will be put back to that unit, that specific target, by 3 times damage multiplied. So when they hit you, that damage will be multiplied back, just the same as electricity, but this time it's specified back toward the original target. It's not just randomized like electricity. It goes back to the original target and it does 3 times as much damage. So pretty interesting there. A lot of explaining to do there, a lot of different abilities within this one ability. But the nice thing is you can switch over to whichever one you want. So if you are ranged and you have a firearm, Toxin is really, really useful here because you have this huge reload speed and you have the holster damage, which is really nice for firearms and anything like that. Cold is really useful for just making sure that everyone stays alive within your aura. Adds a huge amount of armor, just making sure that those lighter frames, whether it be Equinox, Mag, or someone that just doesn't have a whole bunch of armor like Ash, that they are able to actually stay alive. Electricity is just kind of a retribution. It just shocks back at units and it does a huge amount of damage. That is pretty high with a 10 times damage multiplier. And heat just adds a little bit more health, more maximum health, If you have a percentage health heal, that would be really useful, but I really don't know of any Warframes that actually do that. And of course, the status on the heat is pretty low, so that's not really useful for an armor strip. So heat just kind of falls off there. The most useful one, though, we can definitely say is cold, as this aura can be projected to your allies, and it definitely keeps them alive. So that's really, really useful there. Vex armor. Vex armor. When shields are hit, Chroma and nearby allies' armor grows stronger, and when health takes a hit, weapon damage increases. So, you notice, shields are hit, Chroma and nearby allies' armors grow stronger, and the maximum shields that you have to have drained to get all the armor growth off of this, regardless of how much power strength you put into this ability or not, is 400 shields. As soon as you drain 400 shields, you'll get the maximum benefit for your armor growth. Weapon damage is off of health when your health takes a hit. To get the maximum value of this, regardless again of power strength, is 100 health. As soon as you lose 100 health, you'll get the maximum damage you can get out of this ability. Super, super useful to know what point you'll actually get the maximum values of your ability. Drain is 75 energy, duration is 25 seconds, radius is 18 meters. Again, this is a contribution range. We're going to contribute this and gift it to all nearby Tenno and make sure that we are nice and tanky and we deal quite a bit of damage. Interesting thing to note is when you have either Spectral Scream or Effigy, both of these abilities also scale off of Vex armor. I know it only says weapon damage increases, which would be any melee weapon, primary weapon, or secondary weapon. But as it turns out with Chroma, whether you're using Spectral Scream or Effigy, it also applies the damage multiplier here to both of those abilities as well, meaning that Spectral Scream gets a damage multiplied off of Vex armor, which is pretty useful when just doing that. It doesn't seem like it applies to any other Warframes or any other Warframe abilities, just these two, just from Chroma, because it is his ability. And then, of course, other Warframes that have weapons will get increased weapon damage, and of course, the increased armor, which is super useful, again, just like cold, to making sure that your allies just don't keel over and die.
Yeah.
Effigy. Chroma turns his pelt into a massive sentry that strengthens nearby allies and engulfs enemies in elemental attacks. Again, you swap through your elements, and this will change the different elements that your Spectre here, your Effigy, will actually do. Drain is 50, drain per second is 10 per second. Damage is 400. Now, the interesting thing on the damage is that the Spectre actually deals 400 damage every 5 times in 1 second. Meaning that if you're looking at the actual damage is 2,000 every second. So it's actually a lot higher than it looks here because the Spectre actually attacks very, very quickly. Okay. Health bar is 8,000. Credit multiplier, as this greedy dragon is a very greedy dragon. Any credits that get killed by the Effigy will drop, and they'll drop at a 2 times rate. Basically, they will double the drop of credits, which is pretty nice. Extra credit chance for those credits to drop is 60%. Speed increase for Chroma, he gets a speed increase by 20%, and he gets a negative armor reduction, or armor penalty here for using Effigy. He loses 50% of his armor, whether he has armor bonus based off of his cold over here with the elemental ward or Vex armor. All of his armor will be straight up chopped right in half, and half of that goes right out the window when you do Effigy.
Aww.
Yeah. So Effigy also does attack everything within 20 meters, so that's a pretty good range, and it does knock back things that get too close to it. So it's a pretty good defense as well, just to make sure that nothing gets really close to it. One thing that does kind of irk me with this, kind of plays with me a little bit, is it says it in the ability, and I don't think it's very true, but just depends on your point of view. It strengthens nearby enemy allies. and engulfs enemies in elemental attacks. I know it engulfs enemies in elemental attacks, but how per se does it actually strengthen nearby allies? It strengthens nearby allies with credits. That's pretty nice. But other than that, I don't see actually anything that increases nearby allies. It really strengthens nearby allies. The speed increase is just toward Chroma. I believe that he gets 20% bonus movement speed because he shreds that pelt, and he basically is lighter and he's quicker. But other than that, I don't see any real buff to allies per se within the ability. So that is kind of not needed for verbiage there. You don't really need it. But again, as I haven't really tested out the speed increase that might actually apply to allies, so that might be what they're talking about there. But if it doesn't, then that's not really useful all that much. And it isn't really useful all that much as an ability.
No.
Alrighty. Should we go ahead and take a look at the mods?
Yes.
All right. So we have two builds here. We have Greedy Dragon and Ancient. We're going to go ahead and start off with the Greedy Dragon here. This is a optimum build for soloing. If you're solo and you just want to do Chroma solo, this is a very good build for Chroma being solo. We have Prime Sure-Footed. Go ahead and see Trinity's video for this. Knockdowns are really nice not to get knocked down. It's really nice to just stay on your feet all the time. Steel Charge for added 60% melee damage. Arcane Energize to get your energy back. Arcane Guardian for added 900 armor. This is a kind of standard setup for me. You can choose whatever arcanes you want. Just depends on your needs. Umbral Intensify, Umbral Vitality, and Umbral Fiber for a whole bunch of armor gained back, health gained back, and of course ability strength. These three mods pair very well with each other, and each gains increased bonuses per each additional mod that you put on from each other. If you take one off, it negates the other two. So this is a pretty nice and interesting set mod where they buff each other. So these three, of course, Chroma has a whole bunch of armor on the base. This Umbral Fiber adds quite a bit of armor, and that also gets multiplied through Vex armor. And of course, I can't even read the ability, but Ward, Elemental Ward there. Things that we want to focus on mainly is Vex Armor's damage increase. This is the number one thing Chroma does really well at, is just buffing everyone, making sure we have a whole bunch of armor. Same thing with the cold on our warding halo here. Nick, what's his name?
Neza?
Yep. Warding Halo. No, it's not Warding Halo. It might be Warding Halo, but no, it is Elemental Ward. So it's nice to have quite a bit of armor on. Same thing with this. That's the main thing we're really trying to focus on, is just having a whole bunch of armor, being very, very tanky, and making sure that our contributions to that are really good for us so that we can just survive, and also for our damage increase to be really, really high. Of course, we're going solo here, so we're just increasing our armor. We're increasing a whole bunch of power strength, just trying to get our armor up as much as we can. We increase our duration with Primed Continuancy and Narrow-Minded, just so that the abilities last 63 seconds, so that we don't have to spam them as often. As when you get really this tanky, it's pretty hard to get your energy back unless you get a whole bunch of energy orbs, or of course if you get hit, which is why we have Hunter's Adrenaline on here as well. Primed Flow for maximum battery, and I believe that's just it. Health here, ability strength, just to get your ability strength up. I know we are going negative efficiency here, but that's why we have Hunter's Adrenaline and Arcane Energize to be able to get our energy back. It's a pretty good build, especially if you're trying to go solo. Well of Life as well, trying to get our health back when we lose that health. Not too necessary. Our Sentinel can do that pretty well, but Well of Life if you need it. But yes, this is a very good soloing build. This is very good for that.
Yeah, also, Hunter's Adrenaline and Rage do not work for Eidolon hunting.
Oh, yeah.
No.
If you're doing Eidolon hunting, so no. But if you're in a regular tile and you're dealing with higher level enemies, this does work really, really well. But Chroma's main benefit I would have to say, is actually as a buffer. He's very good for just helping out allies. So this is for solo builds, but if you're looking for something for helping out teammates and squad mates and making sure that everyone stays alive, this ancient build is really, really going to be interesting. So ancients, corrupted ancients, if you know ancient healers, they provide an aura that gives a 90% damage reduction. This pretty much is that 90% damage reduction. Even warframes that have the lowest armor, which is 105 armor, can get at least an 80% damage reduction, which is really, really nice. So this is really good for just helping out teammates. Steel Charge for the melee damage, Prime Sure-Footed for knockdowns. We have Umbral Intensify, Umbral Fiber, and Umbral Vitality for the trio. They pair very well together for each other. We have Blind Rage for increased ability strength. When you're playing with other players, it really does help. I know there is negative ability efficiency here, but he is very, very good just with power strength in general, upping his defenses and upping his damage. We want to actually go Transient Fortitude here as well. I know the abilities don't have a very good duration. That's why in solo we actually use Narrow-Minded to increase the durations of the abilities so you're not having to cast them as much. But if you're with teammates, hopefully you get a Trinity or someone who can get back energy so that you can kind of just spam these two abilities and you don't really have to worry about it all that much. We are adding Primed Continuancy on here to try to get back some duration because we are going to go Transient Fortitude and we add way more ability strength. We're also going to add Stretch on here. We do not want to be using Narrow-Minded. This does not help, especially when we're trying to give everyone else a buff. And especially with the radius, it's a pretty small radius, so we don't really want to be going negative range here. We want to be using basic stretch, and we don't want to be using overextended because overextended takes out our ability strength, and therefore it negates our bonuses that we can give to allies. Primed Flow for maximum battery, making sure that we don't lose a whole bunch of our energy, and +2, since our abilities use quite a bit of energy, we don't want to be stuck in a situation where we can't cast.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's that. For a really greedy dragon, what you could do for the effigy, if you're looking for the credit multipliers, is you can go full efficiency. This is what I would do if I was doing something like this. I would go Fleeting Expertise, and I would use Streamline at 25% just to get efficiency maximized with this because it does have a drain per second. You can use Guided Effigy to make sure that the effigy is mobile and you can move the effigy around. That would be pretty useful. I would go maximum battery for that using Primed Flow, making sure that you have more energy overall just so that you can just be able to move the effigy wherever you need it. I would use the same three mods, Umbral Fiber, Umbral Intensify, and Umbral Vitality, as they pair very well for each other within this. If you don't, you can just use the basic mods for that. I would not add Power Strength as you want to be very efficient for this. Primed Continuancy would be pretty good as well, making sure that you don't drain a whole bunch per second, trying to get back that energy. Let's see what this starts looking like. So we have those two. Gonna add on these three here. Gonna add on that. I love my melee damage. I'm never gonna go without that.
No.
So we really don't want to go that. We definitely want, I would think, the Guided Effigy, maximum battery, and then of course our efficiency mods. So yeah, that would probably be it for that. Yeah, I wouldn't go too much power strength too much with this. This would be more for just credit farming. The effigy already does pretty good damage already. The one thing to note though is Vex Armor does increase the damage on this ability, and it's already up pretty good. So it would be more for lower levels. So you could use effigy for getting credits, but again, this is a really sucky ability. I don't know why it says it strengthens nearby enemies, because it really doesn't all that much. But if you really are looking for credits, this is not the way to go. This does not help you out at all. what really does help you out is if you need credits, the end way to get them is going to the index.
The index.
And that will get you credits pretty readily quickly. You can make quite a few million, I believe. Yes, doing the high risk investment, you can get 250 per round for your return, which is quite a bit of cash, but you do have that risk where if you die, you will not get your credits back. So if you want to, you can use Chroma for just getting some early game cash just to be able to get your stuff down on the table. For Crimson Archon shards, especially for Vex armor and especially for Elemental Ward, you want to be going full red shards. Red shards will make sure for your armor increase, it'll increase your armor even further and it'll increase your damage even further. The only negative that I can see versus red shards versus blue is that if you're underneath a nullifier, that it'll basically knock out all that armor and you're left with less armor than you would have with blue shards. But even then, blue shards, I don't think the armor from those actually multiply through to the armor within Elemental Ward or Vex armor. I don't see anything within the ability description on additive armor multipliers, which would be basically bonus armor from Archon shards. So I don't see any math. I don't see any mention to additive armor where if you add on more armor, it'll get multiplied through those abilities. So I don't see any benefit for going blue shards. And the same with red shards. Red shards will actually, over those abilities, give you more armor than if you would put on the blue shards anyway. So there's that. And again, I don't see anything mentioning additive armor. So unless I hear otherwise, I would assume that the blue shards would make you more tanky than the red. Assume. So, yes. Well, are you ready to test out this dragon?
I'm ready.
All right. A lot of abilities to go over.
Yeah.
Yeah, like every single ability. Every single ability. Man, you can't make it not complicated.
And I didn't even know that the spectral screen chained.
The first ability?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know about the damage amplification until I actually did some research on it either. I was like, whoa. But yeah, especially for Elemental Ward, that's a lot to put into ability. But I mean, if I had to make a Warframe, my page might look like that. Oh, all right.
Now where's the death orb at?
Where's a death orb? Get our energy back.
Yeah. The prime, or the void is a prime's best friend.
All right, so we got Toxin here, and that'll actually do quite a bit of damage. Do 30% of their health bar when afflicted by Toxin. It's pretty cool. You have to wait for the elements. This is why I did a slower duration as well, so you can see each of these elements getting popped off. There's a lot of abilities with Chroma.
There is a lot of abilities.
We got fire.
Fire.
Yeah, look at the burn though. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm blazing everybody. I'm just burning them all.
Burn.
How about we burn them a little bit faster?
Burn, baby, burn.
Rawr. I'm a little flamethrower.
Now I will electrify people.
Alright. Now I got code. And this, if they fire at you, they'll get cold.
Yeah.
This is cool. We're freezing people. Let's freeze some people.
Oh. Spectral Scream still goes off if you melee. Which is nice. It's still activated.
Ooh, look at that. And I'm just standing here and they're getting hit with those cold procs. Alright, next up is electricity. Electricity should do pretty well with a 10 times damage multiplier. Let's see what this does. I've actually not used electricity at all that much.
No.
I would expect it to do very well early and then start to fall off later. Oh, oh, it's shocking.
I'm also doing electricity. I will shock people.
Are you hitting people or are you just letting them kill each other?
No, I'm shocking people.
Oh.
I'm killing them.
Right. Oh, Chroma's a fun one. And we got Toxic again. Which this is mainly, I would think, for your fire rate, so that you can be able to reload nice and quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was much quicker on the reload there for the Ignis. Not so much for the damage, I'd have to say. Super cool. Oh, you know what my favorite one is? I'm a little flamethrower.
You like the fire?
I'm a cute dragon, and I'm a little flamethrower.
And well, I'm a dragon because I'm Spyro.
Oh,
Look at my color
are
scheme.
you a purple dragon?
I'm a purple dragon. You not see my colors?
Yeah.
Do you see my colors?
Oh. You purple and yellow.
I'm purple. I'm
Oh,
Spyro.
do you have effigy or no?
No, I don't.
Oh, no.
I have healing though.
This flame, though, does pretty well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My favorite is that ice, though. Especially when it colds them up. That's just really good.
Yeah.
This is way better than Equinox, I would almost think, at this point, isn't it?
I'm killing people with cold. Oh wow, they just explode.
Oh, yeah. Equinox, though, does add quite a bit of damage to this. If you're doing the day form for the buff.
Yeah.
Alright. What, shall we go?
Yes. But I'm having fun breathing on people.
I like that, too.
I like being a dragon. It's fun.
Right. Little flamethrower.
Whack.
Meh. All right. So there is Chroma.
Chroma.
So some interesting notes on Chroma is, yes, he does give really good damage reductions to your allies. He's a really good buffer. He just reminds me of an ancient healer all over again. Just huge amounts of armor. I believe he can get upwards to like 10,000 armor or something like that at full
Goodness.
build. So this is to the point where he gets really, really tanky, and then he makes sure that all your allies across the board just don't die. In and of himself, if you're going solo, there is going to be a cap with Chroma where he only does 8 or 9,000 maybe, or 8 or 9 or 10 times damage multiplier on that Vex armor. So even with that armor reduction, as soon as you hit, or the damage multiplier, as soon as you hit levels 70 to 100, they're going to have 90% damage reduction at that point. When they get to the point of having 90% damage reduction, that damage buff doesn't do anything for you. It's better to actually have a full armor strip at that point, because it just strips all the resistances away and you can just go through without having to multiply your damage to that point, to that extent. But if he is paired, and especially his abilities, he's very much so a buffer within his abilities. If he's paired with Frost, Equinox, or Frost, Trinity, or Mag, or someone like that, where they can start doing armor strippage, even Saran at that point, I think Saran would be really happy with him because he would make her tankier. She would start dealing a lot more damage with just melee weapons. I don't think this applies to abilities, but it would be interesting. I know Equinox applies to abilities where, he would definitely help Saran with the spores and be able to get the damage up. But especially if you're in a squad with Trinity and or Frost or Mag, where they can strip armor at higher levels, this is going to be really, really useful because of that damage buffer. And he buffs not just himself, he buffs all 4 squad mates. So if you have someone with quite a bit of energy to spare, like Trinity, she would be more than happy to share her energy with Chroma because of that damage multiplier. This is, at that point, 10 times damage. This is huge, especially considering most things like even Saran only hit 3,000 to 5,000 damage cap on her ability per tick, per instance of damage. When you're talking about weapons, most weapons can hit at least millions of damage, if not beyond that. And then you're taking that million of damage, you're multiplying it by 10, and you're getting 10 million. So this is huge for Chroma because he's just buffing those weapons, and those weapons are dealing even more insane amounts of damage.
Whew.
He is the buffer.
The buffer.
Oh, I love that infested ancient, the healer reference, because it really, for him, he really feels like that. But yes, well, is that all the time we have for this episode?
Unfortunately, yes.
And we will see you guys in the very next video. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.